Yeah, so is this one. Let's see. I hope it's juiced up. Okay, let's see if we can get it. Can you...
Okay, it's in camera mode. There we go. Wait.
Oh, great.
Yeah, this is it.
Jambox, there you go.
Jambox paired. It's paired.
Okay, now let's try. No, I need to go in.
Okay, sisters, this is the only thing I can do.
Okay.
So if you, I'll just lay it like under here, and if you don't mind just taking it to the registration desk, and there, is that okay?
That's perfect.
Thank you so much.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, blessings for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So small. Okay, it's such a small image.
Is it working?
Is there a way to blow up the image? Is there a way to fill the screen?
Just moving this
And
back.
also, Sister Jennifer, can you make the sound louder? Because it's not loud. Really? Boy, that's not very loud.
There's a speaker, right?
This one.
No, that might. Yeah, what
Yeah.
we did was we used this
On the speaker?
on the speaker. Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I'm going to speak from down here anyway.
Again, my apologies.
No, that's no problem.
They'll wait for you now, though. You got an extra 5 minutes. No, 10 minutes. Don't forget, they get 10 minutes more. Just remember.
Are you good?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, we're good. We're good. We're fine.
Okay. I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah, we might just need a little.
How much cord you have?
How about a little focus, maybe? And then lower it a little bit. There you go. Is it focused? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, what did you do? That was good. Can you all see from where you are? Okay, we're going to get started. And Father Chuck said we get to go over our time. But hopefully you will enjoy this.
Yes.
I just want you to know that I've got a lot crammed in here because I'm like worried that you won't get it. Just teasing, I know you will. And I have good handouts. In fact, we need those.
Okay.
Sister Jennifer is my assistant. My name is Sister Rose. We're both daughters of St. Paul, sisters from the Bay Area, and I forgive her. I'm from Los Angeles. But it's so nice to be here. I'm the founding director of the Pauline Center for Media Studies. I've written extensively, we have some books that Sister Jennifer is going to unpack there too, on media literacy education and faith formation to teach parents and teachers and children how to be critical thinkers about media. But our talk today is the document that Pope Francis wrote on the love of the family, Amoris Laetitia, on the family. So it's so controversial, that document, because it speaks about, perhaps communion for divorced and remarried people. There's a couple of other ideas that the Pope floats in there, but it distracts those few issues that are not completely settled yet, distract from the entire document that is filled with ideas for good communication in families and between people, and about media and the role of media and technology in our lives. Now, I'm supposed to start with a prayer, so I'm going to do, anybody ever hear of Milton Berle? Oh, good. Okay, there's not too many millennials here. Okay, so he was this old comedian, right? So he had this prayer. So let us all bow our heads in thanksgiving to God. And as Uncle Milty used to say, every night let us thank God for the gift of electricity, or we'd all be watching television by candlelight. Isn't that a great prayer? But there's a great illusion, a grand illusion that the Pope talks about in this document. Oh, and Sister Jennifer is also going to pass out the handout. She's a great assistant, as you can tell. I thought I had a copy of the document. Oh, sorry. In this wonderful document, how many of you have read it or even looked at it? Oh, good. That's so great to hear. And I have the website on the handout. So you just put the name of the document, Amoris Laetitia, Vatican, and it'll come right to it. What's nice about it being online is that then you can search for themes and for words and terms. So, but look at how things have changed in the era of the Vatican. When Benedict, right, and was sworn in 2005, he was sworn in when he was elected Pope. They're filming this. I hope it's the best comedy of all time. And then 2013, but look at the difference in St. Peter's Square. Isn't that interesting? In just those 8 years, look at how much everything changed. Wow. Are we better? No. Well, maybe yes and maybe no. So here's another prayer that I want to share with you. It's a kind of a contemplative moment, the Salve Regina, and it's actually very, millennials will love this. Thank you. What did you think? Beautiful, isn't it? YouTube, this won an Emmy in the Midwest Chicago market, they say, because there are local regional Emmys that are given out. What a wonderful video, and it brings, I think, technology, but if you notice the background of Chicago, the industry, the whole area, this is our modern world, and I think it goes with what Father was saying, that there's that cosmic dimension to the environment that we live and work in, and that we sanctify, hopefully, with our presence. And the Pope Francis brings this theme throughout his writings. So now if you have a pen or a pencil in your hand, and you have the handout that Sister Jennifer just generously gave you, on the back there is a space for you to write down the 3 most important values that guide your life. And you might say, well, what's a value? Because we hear value used and misused so often. But a value is an overarching idea or ideal that we live by. So what 3 ideals are most important for you or for your family? Share with us that you're willing to share? Faith. Just yell them out. Love. Trust.
Honesty. Respect.
Respect. Ooh, that's a good one. I rarely hear that one.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Devotion.
Did you say devotion? Devotion? Okay.
Obedience.
To who? That's a heavy word.
The head of the family.
Okay. Okay. Compassion? Next.
Fidelity.
Okay. What about integrity? That's one of my favorites. Family. Community. Right? Well, we could go on, and I hope you keep your papers because you can add to that. And if you want at the end, you can come and take a picture of this. And the reason I do this little exercise in my workshops is so that, first of all, if we practice our values, they turn into virtues. Because virtues are habits of being. And then they become second nature for us. That's one reason. The other reason is that these can become a filter through which we can then judge the media that we consume. Because we are indeed consuming it, whether we're watching TV, whether we're on the internet, or sometimes we're creating it as well, the content that we create whenever we go on social media. Everybody here on Facebook? Yeah. Okay, everybody? Social media of some kind? Twitter? So I have 5,000 friends on Facebook. I even know some of them. I have a lot from Africa who have millions of dollars. The other day, the former president of Zimbabwe friended me, but I don't think it was him. So you need to be critical thinkers, right? But in that world of social media, you know, how much time does it take away from our lives? Does it contribute to our lives? That's something to keep in mind as well. So here I've kind of already talked about the joy of love of the family. And you see, this is what can happen to us. We can get all the way to heaven, but, you know, take a selfie with Jesus. And the kid doesn't even realize it's going to be there forever. In the beatific vision. I love that. Kid doesn't get it. He hasn't been to church in the Diocese of Reno. So, where did all the trouble begin with computers, or problems begin, or challenges? Because I don't want to negate the modern technologies of communication, because they have enhanced our lives in many ways not. The very first woman to ever get a doctorate in computer sciences was a nun. And actually, it was also, there was a gentleman from China who received a doctorate at the same time as she did. But can you imagine a nun? So blame the nuns. That's what they did. So the Pope wants us to spread the joy of love everywhere, and that's how we can do that with the family. So he wrote this in the Year of Mercy, and it was an invitation to all families to value family life, to value marriage in a particular way. Okay, and that we should be signs of mercy and grace. You know, mercy is a really interesting way to look at films and look at television, and even when we, you know, did you ever get anybody answer you really badly on Facebook, or threaten to unfriend you, or get in kind of a snarky fight? Did you ever wonder what's going on in their lives to make them reveal this part of themselves that maybe needs a little bit of mercy and grace. So there's a lot to pray for folks too. So this presentation, as quickly as we can, is going to focus, it's going to use the lens of theology, communication, community, family, media, and technology. So which family are you? Are you a family who suffers? Has there been bloodshed in your family? Disputes? Discord? Because maybe not in our families, but there are a lot of people. If you watch Dateline or 48 Hours or ID TV, good grief. It would seem that the whole country has somehow suffered through some tragedy. And we know, look at Las Vegas, look at the shootings. This issue with guns and death is terrible. So what about, are you poor? Do you suffer from physical illness, mental illness, old age in your family without care? Has there been the death of a child, the loss of a spouse? And I'm going through these because all of these types of families Jesus talks about in the 4 Gospels. And finally, is there simply not enough wine in your life? Because he even talks about that, doesn't he? So yeah, I say that with a little bit of a smile, because welcome to the Bible. The Pope was trying to tell us that we have problems in our families, but these are problems that from time immemorial have been dealt with. But we have the grace of God, we have the grace of divine revelation, we have Jesus who came and revealed himself to us and is present with us in the Eucharist and all the sacraments through the church and through one another and in so many ways. So why does he describe these realities as the path of suffering and of blood? And did any of you see 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri? Who saw it? Up or way up? Best movie of the year. But if you have virgin ears, you might want to be aware that the language is a little challenging. But you have to understand the people who are challenged in this film as well. But Flannery O'Connor always said that why she wrote about sin in her novels, because you can't grasp what grace is if you can't grasp what sin is. 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri is about sin and about grace. And the interesting thing, and I'm going to give you the key to this, when this lady, Frances McDormand, Marge, walks into the advertisement, the guy who owns the billboards, to rent them, there's a beetle on the windowsill. And she's angry because nobody's found their killer, her daughter's killer. And she goes over to this beetle that's laying on its back and its legs are flying in the air. And she has a little smile kind of and flicks it over and gives it life. And then the guy, this young guy who's in charge of this agency, he's reading a book. Could you ever imagine what book he's reading? Not the Bible. He's reading Flannery O'Connor, A Good Man is Hard to Find. And it is a book about a good man and being hard to find, but it's about a lot of other things, but it's about grace and that will overcome sin. And that's, if you can go into a movie like that, bad language won't diminish you. It's not for kids, okay? It's for mature people. It won't diminish you. It will uplift you if you're open and let it. So scriptures are a source of comfort, and we get to see and experience God's grace. So here's the family around the table. Okay, so this cardinal from Munich, Germany came to visit us, and his name is Cardinal Marx. I knew him when he was a bishop from another diocese. He came to visit when they were trying to put up a TV network in Germany, a Catholic TV network. Really fine man. He's on the Pope's privy council, those cardinals who counsel him. So he comes, he has dinner, he celebrates Mass, he has dinner with us and some friends, and the next morning he wanted to take me with his secretary, 2 secretaries, out to breakfast. So he was kind of dressed down. He was dressed in black, but he had a coat on. And so the breakfast comes, and I said, are you going to say grace? And he said, he got really like uncomfortable. And he said, in Germany, we do not do this, like pray in public, I think. And I said, the Pope says we're supposed to say grace before every meal. So, but he was the kind of person you could kind of tease, right? So he blesses our food. And then he looked at me and he said, do you always do everything the Pope says? I said, well, we try. But have you ever seen this graph before of how to set a table? Is there any place for a cell phone? No. So here's a beautiful image of the Trinity. It's actually the angels outside of Sodom and Gomorrah that met with Abraham, but it's really used as an image of the Trinity as communicating together. So we have the love of the Father bringing forth the Son, the love of the Father and the Son who bring forth the Holy Spirit for us. And they have this circle, this of community of the Trinity, but the opening at the end, the bottom also, is where grace can be distributed. You can interpret this in so many ways, but three divine persons in one God, but they're not isolated, they're together. And then we have an image, a modern icon of the Holy Trinity, of the Holy Family. And so again, we have this idea of a unity, of not being distinct individuals. You know, our culture celebrates the individual. Would you agree with that? We don't really talk that much about community unless it's from the margins. But hopefully in our parishes we do talk about community. But the message that God wants to communicate to us through the life of the Holy Family is that idea that we are together and families are meant to be together. So, anybody watch the middle? So, here's I've got a couple of little clips from the middle. I think clips help a lot.
Okay, it's fine. It'll be fine. It will fine. We're fine. Oh, come on! It can't be a tornado. It's a beautiful sunny day.
I hate Indiana weather. Mom, are we gonna be okay? I don't know. Huh? I don't know if we're gonna be okay soon. I really don't. Frankly, I have no evidence that we will.
That's not what you're supposed to say.
Oh, I know. I'm just supposed to pick you all up and tell you everything's gonna be fine. But you know what? You wanna know the truth? Your dad's big on truth. Basically, our lives suck right now. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. 2009 has been a rotten year. We can't afford a new dryer. We can't afford unexpired food. I can't even afford the LCD light event that I ordered on the TV to surprise you all at Christmas. Surprise! I don't sell a car. That means no job. That also means maybe no house, but the tornado would probably blow it all away anyway. All in. Let's just give you kids to Madonna or something. Your dad and I will go live in a tent city somewhere. Because the truth is, we're screwed. It's fine. No, everything's fine. We will be fine.
Did you ever feel like that? Parents have a big responsibility, don't they, to give security to their children and to their husbands. Mothers, you have a great responsibility. Okay, here's another clip from this stellar series. It's in its last season this year. Oops, sorry. Let's go back.
What are you doing? We have a couple here, John.
I don't know. I just thought we could hear.
Did the kids break the big TV? Hey, kids, get in here.
Nobody broke the TV. No, I just thought, we don't have to eat with the TV every night. We could just sit and talk to each other.
Whoa, why are there plates on the table?
That's where we're eating dinner.
What? I don't watch the little TV.
Someone break the big TV. The TVs are fine. We're just not watching them until after supper. dinner here with my family. My low is the comment that Axel just made. Sue.
My high was that the guy who sits next to me in science saw me in the hallway today and seemed to sort of recognize me. My low was that I was wrong.
What did I say about sneezing words to your sister?
My low is realizing that my family never bought shares for me. The table.
Wait, I want to change my love.
All right. Let's forget highs and lows. Do something different. Everybody, look at the person on your left and say something nice.
You mean well.
Axel, do you do Sue?
Head is basically the right size to your body.
Really? You're not just saying that.
Below the head that's coming from.
Shut up!
You watch those people on TV.
Listen, you kids are not even trying. You're brother and sister, and this is the only relationship that is going to last your whole life. You know, someday your dad and I are not going to be around anymore, and you're only going to have each other.
Are you dying?
That's why we're eating at the table. You're dying? No, I'm not dying. Oh my God, Dad's dying. Nobody is dying.
Why can't we all just die now and get it over with? That's it. You three are going to start loving each other right now because that's what your mother wants. Right, is that what you want?
So, you know, think of this in relation to what the Pope thinks. The Pope actually believes that people are addicted to television, and maybe in some places in the world, maybe they are. In developed countries, are we addicted to our devices? Can we live without them? Do you ever find yourself patting your pocket or your shirt pocket, or I don't know, checking your purse to see if your phone's there? What if you walk away, you leave the house and you're at work and you realize you left your phone at home? How do you feel? You go back home. This is, maybe it's not addiction, but it's certainly reliance and a sense of completeness or incompleteness without it. So the influence of the media, it does isolate us. So it increases the idea of extreme isolationism and individualism, especially if computers and gaming devices are in the bedrooms and kids have their own rooms. Well, what happens? I have one sister and she has 2 kids and a husband. Okay, they don't share the same bedroom because of his snoring problems, but he has his own gaming system as well. I'm not sure how bad the snoring really is. So the fact is they have 3 separate rooms and 3 different gaming systems. 4. Each bedroom and the living room has gaming systems in them. So how do you, if you're going to give your kid their own gaming system for their own room, how do you expect them to show up for supper? The idea of disconnected love, disposable relationships, narcissism, seeing others as objects, and maybe presenting too many life options to the point where everything's the same and it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters because it's all the same. Material poverty and war. You know, I said that these devices have had a good effect on us, but you know, when your iPhone gets too old, what happens to it? You go and you